Hey everybody, welcome to Chapter 11, Objective 4, Exceptionality. Explain the potential benefits of performance-based and portfolio assessments with students with disabilities, including accommodations that might need to be made. This is kind of a fun area to read and look at. Talking about assessments in ways that are alternate to regular testing. And performance-based assessments are basically focused on processes. We're looking at getting the knowledge that students knows how to get from point A to point B. They're usually based on authentic learning tasks, and they often allow us to use alternate methods of testing, which we'll look at in just a moment. Benefits to students in these kinds of tests are kind of large. In performance assessment, we're able to, one, offer more time to our students. This could be one chunk of time, or it could be smaller blocks of time over a period of time for them to complete the assessment. Sometimes a performance assessment might be more project-based than simply sitting down and taking an assessment of some sort. Or it might be taking an assessment where they have a slightly different style. For example, instead of just writing everything down in pen and paper, working with the map and maybe labeling or more interesting alternate knowledge demo where they might be able to do something fun like actually speak and maybe do a tour of the map area, especially with students who maybe don't have good motor skills. This gives them an opportunity to demonstrate their knowledge in a different way. And also, it connects real world to school tasks so that we have a connection there to bring things together. Performance-based assessment accommodations are fairly, they're going to look familiar to you because we've been going through these for quite some time now. The first of which are using an audio or oral kind of assessment so that they can speak what they know instead of trying to write what they know. So difficult for students who have bad motor skills to be presented with a paper test. They know the knowledge, but they just can't get it to come out through their fingers. So giving them an audio or oral option to look through. We can also have them demonstrate real skills, and we may have to accommodate and work with them on those skills a little bit too. For example, subtraction and might not always seem like a real world skill to these kids, but to a child. But let's take them grocery shopping, or figuratively in class. Say, here's a box of macaroni, and here's another box of macaroni, and this one costs this much, and this one costs that much. What's the difference? Which one do you think you would buy based on how much money you have? So we can make some connections like that in accommodation. We also need to make sure we check pre-skills. Sometimes the pre-skills for certain kinds of knowledge tests and process tests just aren't there yet. And so they may take a little bit of extra time. Another one is a scale down. Now this would be based on an IEP, so that is an important point right there. We want to take a look at the IEP and say, okay, let's scale this down a little bit for the student, maybe pull back a little. And so if it affects their assessment too much, we may not be able to, but there's often times when they can. And finally, another accommodation that works well is demonstrate what you expect and what you're looking for, and then chunk that out. Break it up into smaller pieces so that the student can get through it. What this, in effect, does for our students is gives them an area to succeed and to move forward. Along with performance-based assessment, we have portfolio assessment. And portfolio assessment is building a body of work that the student has done for us to go through and look at. Some good elements to the portfolio assessment. One, we're going to have anecdotes. These are things that you as a teacher or other teachers have written and can put within their portfolio. Interviews with the student, so sitting down and finding out what their knowledge is. We're going to put work samples, what they've done, whether that's drawings or other things. We're going to put that all together so it can be seen. And we're also going to use scored samples, so maybe it's a quiz, maybe it's a writing assignment, things like that. We're going to put these all together. And again, this is to find out whether the student knows what they need to know. How does a portfolio assessment help the teacher? Portfolio assessment helps the teacher by showing progress toward the IEP. When you can tie progress to the IEP, then you know what you're getting and how things are working. It might be wise to keep a portfolio all the time, depending on the student, so that when it comes IEP time, we can take out samples and say, here's what the student has been able to do. It does focus on products instead of scores. So notice it's not as process oriented um, as, say, the performance based, but it looks at the product. What was the outcome? What were they able to do? Did they manage to demonstrate that they know what's going on here? And there's an emphasis on strengths. We want to focus on the strength of the student instead of their weaknesses. And this is actually a portfolio is a great way to encourage a student who maybe feels like they can't do anything. As the portfolio builds and you go back and show that to them, they get very excited to see what they've managed. How do they help the student? Well, this is pretty cool stuff also. One, it gives them an opportunity for self-evaluation, and you can sit down with the student and help them with that self-evaluation. They need to look at that work and say, well, this is what I thought I did well and what I didn't do well. There are opportunities with self-evaluation. I did not create a complete separate slide for this because it's the only accommodation listed in the book for using technology to help with self-evaluation, especially if a student has limited verbal skills or written skills. We can use Tap-A-Talk and things like that for them to be able to use words quickly and say, this is what I thought I did well and what I didn't. The other thing that it helps with is greater independence. We want our students to be able to become more independent, and that portfolio is a big deal for that. And finally, we want to focus on strengths, not on scores. And that's what students with disabilities need, is they need to know they do have strengths, that the disability doesn't rule their lives. And in the end, these are all things that will help our student to move on and move forward and become uh, stronger individuals and happier in their lives, so that they can walk on down that yellow road and on through life. So hopefully this was helpful for you, and have a great day.